Good afternoon, YouTube. So this is some of this Palram dual wall polycarbonate sheet. I don't know if you can read that across there. As the name implies, it's made out of polycarbonate, and then it's got these channels in there. This is an 8mm, 5/16 of an inch spacing, and then top and bottom polycarbonate sheets. And it has this protective film on it, and you can see that where I've removed the film. Unfortunately, this sat outside in the sun for quite a while, and this film is just really fragile. You can kind of peel it off a little bit and then it's stuck down, and that takes too much time to remove. So what I found works really well is some compressed air, and then watch this right here. See how that just peels it back. It's almost like sandblasting without the sand, and it doesn't damage the surface at all. It actually relies on the fact that this plastic is rather brittle, and once the air gets under there, it lifts it up a little bit and then just chips off the brittle plastic. And the other thing you can do with the compressed air, I've showed this in another video, is if you do any cutting on this material, you'll end up with like little bits of plastic sawdust inside of there, and you can just run the air along these channels, and if you just kind of guide it along with your fingers here, blow all of this out. And then what you can use is you can either use a foil tape, aluminum foil tape over here if you want to seal this up, or they also make a spun bonded or spun woven fabric tape you can put on here if you want to allow this to breathe, but you want to keep dirt out. So that's probably what I'll do once I get done with this. I'm going to blow all the plastic film off of there, and then I'll just clean up the edges a little bit and put my tape on there to seal this in so it's nice and clean. So this was a scrap piece of material that I had left over from my patio enclosure, and I figured something like this is probably useful. And the amazing thing is it was exactly the right size. It's like I measured and cut this to fit. Yeah, I just wanted to show you that tip. If you have any of this, either this kind of panel or just plexiglass sheets where they include this protective film, if you leave that out in the sun or in the weather for like a year or so, it's going to get brittle like this, and it gets really hard to remove. But a little shot of compressed air, kind of have to hit it from, come in this way, that way, this way. You got to kind of find its weak point and get it to start to break up a little bit. It's almost like peeling a hard-boiled egg. You kind of have to find the good starting point. But you can see how brittle this is. Like I've got a piece here, and it tears out. And then if you had really sharp fingernails, you might be able to get in there. But you can't really get in there with anything like a razor blade, because you're going to scratch up the finish. Okay, YouTube, that's about as much as I can get. The rest of that is really stuck on there, so I guess I'd rather have a little bit stuck on there than do something more aggressive. Maybe at some point, if I get a sandblaster set up, I could try. I imagine baking soda blasting might get that off of there, but for now I think that's good enough. I'm going to clean this one up, and then I'm going to try a couple of magnets in there and see if that's enough to hold this in place, because this will be my front door on the 3D printer enclosure. And then I'll use the other piece for the top. Reusing all this old scrap, might as well use it. I figured this was pretty good material when I got a hold of it. It's actually kind of neat stuff. They make this in many different thicknesses, I think, and then you can get 2 or 3 walls. So this is the 2-wall 8mm. I think they have a 6mm, 8, and I think a 10mm, and then 2 and 3 wall thicknesses. They use this for greenhouse walls and roofs, and that's what I used on my patio enclosure, so it seems to hold up pretty good. It's light, but it's rigid, is what I like about it. It's almost like plywood. It's very strong, but it's very light. If you had a piece of plexiglass that thick, it would be really heavy. I can pick it up, just 2 fingers there, hold it out. You can pick up a whole sheet of this 4 by 8 foot sheet, and it's no problem to move around. So I think this is the door to my 3D printer enclosure. So we'll show you what it looks like when I get it put together. Stay tuned for that video, and as always, thanks for watching. See ya.